It's a stick up. Faster news, faster lacrosse, faster thoughts. This week we have Kevin Boilard, Neil Barrett, and Kyle Bennet stepping onto the scene today, and they had some hard-hitting questions. Was the Whipsnakes win worth it? And does something need to change about homecoming weekend? We all make some predictions about MVP and the 2025 PLL Champions. Thanks for joining, but without further ado, let's get into it. Can't believe I'm saying this already, but the PLL regular season is all over, and they just wrapped up a crucial weekend in Boston where everything came down to this moment here. The last game of the weekend was Maryland Whipsnakes against the Boston Cannons. Now, Maryland faced a crazy ultimatum. If they lost the game, they get the first pick in next year's draft, but if they win the game, they make it into this year's playoffs. And the whole time I'm watching this game, the evil in me was saying, you guys should just lose the game. But the good in me was like, why would you lose a PLL game if you can make it into the playoffs? So, Kevin, I wanted to know what you thought. Was this Whipsnakes win worth it?
Yes, Scotty, the win was worth it. First of all, I hate tanking. It's for losers, but put yourself in that locker room for a second. Head coach Jim Stagnita has never missed the playoffs as a PLL coach. Do you think he wants that streak to end? And those guys in that locker room are now playing another week together. That's what they're playing and fighting for. As great as Brennan O'Neill was 2 years ago, CJ Kurse last year, or Joey Spallina next year, none of them are worth tanking or losing games on purpose. More importantly, winning culture. The Whipsnakes are one of the few teams that have it, and they shouldn't take it for granted.
Kevin, going with tanking is for losers. That's a bar. Tanking is for losers, and I get it. It's hard to go into a locker room and be like, guys, lose this game so for next year's draft, especially if half of those people aren't going to even be in the locker room for next year. But anyway, Neil, what are you thinking about this?
This might sound like a bit of a cop-out, but I think it really depends on what happens in the second season of the PLL playoffs. When it comes to Jim Stagnita and the Maryland Whipsnakes, I don't think you can ever truly count them out. We saw the Whipsnakes make an unlikely championship game run just last season. If they can match that this year and put themselves in a position to win their third championship, then of course this win was worth it. As Jim Mora famously said, you play to win the game. I know, not bad, right? The flip side of that is if they crash out of the playoffs before the championship game, then yeah, this win wasn't worth it compared to the number one pick and the ability to strengthen this impressive young Whipsnakes core.
Dude, absolutely phenomenal impression. And you're right. Jim Stagnita is a winning coach, and all he wants to do is win. That man's not doing anything wrong like throwing a game just for next year's draft pick. But Kyle, what are you saying about this, my man?
What's up, Scotty? Thanks for having me, man. You ask, was it worth the Whipsnakes winning 15-8 over the Boston Cannons to punch their ticket to the postseason rather than aiming for the number one overall pick in the 2026 PLL draft? It was absolutely worth it. Stags has never missed the postseason in his 7 years as head coach of the Maryland Whipsnakes. And the Whipsnakes have TJ Malone, they have Aiden Carroll, they have Brad Smith, Adam Patra, and the rest of that young Whipsnakes core ready to rock and roll right now and in the future. This isn't 2019 with an aging roster anymore. Jim Stagnita has assembled a roster that is ready to win now and in the future. You play to win championships, not to accumulate top draft picks. It was a smart move by the Whipsnakes to punch their ticket to the 2025 postseason, because all you got to do is get into the dance, and you never know what can happen.
You never know what could happen in the playoffs. So if you know anything about the PLL, you know it's super unpredictable and anything can happen here. Speaking of anything that can happen, you know what did not happen? A home team winning 2 games at home. This year, during every single homecoming game, no team won 2 games at home. Is it a disadvantage to be playing at home? Because it sure seems like it in my eyes. So I had to ask everybody, does something need to change about PLL homecoming weekend? Neil, what do you say about homecoming weekend?
Well, I have some more broad schedule-related things that I would like to see change. For the homecoming weekends themselves, I don't see anything, generally speaking, that needs to be changed. I think no team going 2-0 this year was more about parity within the league than it was about anything to do with the schedule itself. You only need to look back to the last weekend in Denver to see that on Friday night, the Outlaws lost to the Carolina Chaos, who are, at least on paper, significantly farther behind in terms of development. Then they turned around barely 14 hours later and beat the best team in the league in the New York Atlas. So I don't think the system itself is broken.
Interesting point there, Neil. Yes, the Outlaws did beat the Atlas in the second game of the week, but I still do feel like having two games in one weekend, less than 24 hours, is a disadvantage for the home team. But Kyle, what are you thinking?
It was strange that this year no team went 2-0 at home during their homecoming weekend. Does anything need to change about homecoming weekend? Absolutely not. Parity is amazing, and I think this season put that on full display week in and week out. Having quote-unquote road teams being able to overcome a raucous home crowd, sometimes not just once, but twice, is a testament to where the PLL is at here in year 7. I think my one change I would make about homecoming weekend, though, would be making a neutral site game your regular season finale. One game for each team, everyone plays for all the marbles, and having fans sweat out their favorite team's playoff lives would be absolute scenes.
I guess we're all trying to figure out, is it parity in the league or does it have anything to do with the schedule? And I'm not sure. There is a lot of parity, but I'm sure the schedule is still a problem with playing the two games in a row. Kevin, what do you say?
Look, winning 2 games in 2 days is always going to be tough, but teams were really bad at home this year. Homecoming teams had a combined record of 5-11 in 2025. The Woods, Archers, and Cannons all got swept at home, which was shocking, but I don't think it's time for a change. Last year, homecoming teams had a combined record of 10-6. The Atlas, Whips, and Archers all went 2-0, proving that it can be done. Eventually, the league will evolve and we'll get true home and away schedules. But in the meantime, I think homecoming weekends stay the way they are.
All of you guys really agree that homecoming weekend should stay the same. I might be on the other side of this, but all of you guys make pretty good points with that. But now the PLL season has came to an end, and I can't believe it. Now, with the PLL regular season coming to an end, this is when we start to give out some awards. And the most valuable player award is the award that I'm worried about here. Now, Neil, who do you think is going to be the 2025 MVP?
Connor Schellenberger should win the 2025 PLL MVP award. When it comes to the MVP award, I am not a best player on the best team kind of guy. But when that guy has the second greatest point total season in league history and no one else is within 5 points of him, it just kind of works out that way. Shelley has been the most consistent offensive player all season, and several times throughout the season, he has put the Atlas on his back and dragged them to wins. If Michael Sowers was within 3 points, or Liam Intamin hadn't faded a bit down the stretch, or if defenders were ever considered for the MVP award, we might be having a different conversation. But they didn't, so I'm riding with Shelley.
Connor Schellenberger is Neil's MVP. Kevin, do you have a different opinion about this one?
I know Connor Schellenberger has the most points. He also had some clutch moments this year. But in our hypothetical redraft of the entire PLL, who do you think would go number 1 overall? Brennan O'Neill every time. He's the unicorn, the most dynamic goal scorer on the planet. Ask yourself, how often do you see Brennan get a short stick matchup? If you're a defensive coordinator, who's the guy keeping you up at night more than anyone else? It's Brendan O'Neill. And despite this target on his back, he still finished the season ranked top 10 in overall points, number 2 in scoring points, and number 1 in unassisted goals. At the end of the day, he puts the ball in the back of the net better than anyone else. That's why he's my MVP.
Brennan O'Neill did make some massive strides in year 2 of the PLL. I have a hard time deciding between Connor Schellenberger and Brennan O'Neill. But Kyle, maybe you can say who you think is going to be this year's MVP.
So we're talking MVP. And guys, my definition of MVP is a lot different compared to most. I put a lot of weight in the word valuable that is in the term MVP. Valuable doesn't mean best player. It doesn't mean top scoring offensive player. That's why we have Attackman of the Year. It means what was the value of that player to their given team. Now, Connor Schellenberger, he had a phenomenal season, an amazing year for New York. But would the New York Atlas have made the playoffs without Shelley? There's reason to certainly believe that they could have. Jeff T is on that team. Their offense is a high-powered machine, and I think they would have found a way to make the playoffs. Would the Outlaws have made the playoffs and finished as the number one team in the PLL without Logan McNaney starting in goal for them? We may never know that answer. But I think with the Tafuraton offense, they would have found a way to smooth things out after their 0-2 start. If you remove Michael Sowers and his 41 points, 23 of them being assists, mind you, from the Water Dogs offense, do they finish 4-6 like they did this year? Are they picking number one again without Michael Sowers and his contributions to this team? It's a very possible thing. If we're talking most valuable player, Scotty, Michael Sowers gets the nod from me.
I love it. We got all three people saying different offensive players. We got Neil going with Connor Schellenberger, Kevin going with Brennan O'Neill, and Kyle going with Mikey Sowers. So many great players to choose from. I can't wait to see who gets it this year. But with the PLL season coming to an end, we get to reminisce on some of the moments that happened this year. Some of the moments we expected, some of the moments we did not expect. And Kevin, I'm asking you here, what moment caught you most off guard this year?
I think the common answer will be the Cannons and the Archers missing the playoffs. Those downfalls need to be studied, but how about Justin Inacio leading the league in face-off win percentage? No one could have seen that coming before the season. And on top of that, he's the only guy in the league averaging 10 plus ground balls per game. This is a guy who wasn't even active to start the season. Nick Rowlett was facing off at 35% for the Chaos. Inacio comes in and finishes at 60.9%. Higher than TD Erlin, higher than Trevor Baptiste, higher than Joe Nardella. When you look at the Chaos and the year they're having and the fact that they're in the playoffs, Inacio was key to holding it all together.
Kevin, I love that Inacio pick. I remember being at All-Star Weekend, and Inacio made it from not even making the team roster 2 weeks ago to being at All-Star Weekend. That man had made some massive strides this year. Now, Kyle, what moment caught you off guard this year?
Scotty, I think it's fair to say not much catches us off guard anymore here in year 7 of the Premier Lacrosse League. Every week there's new stories within the stories. And I think the layers of those storylines this year, the Tafuraton offense, Logan McNaney stepping in goal and turning the Outlaws season around. You have CJ Kirst bursting onto the scene after returning from injury. 2 first-time head coaches taking their teams to the playoffs. The parity was through the roof this year, and it's a huge positive that year over year, the PLL has a different storyline, different stories to follow along from players, coaches, now GMs. It makes the league amazing, and as the PLL continues to grow and gets closer to where they want to be in the sports league universe, this is such a good thing that we can't expect a single thing. To expect the unexpected is amazing. But I don't think it's a coincidence that both teams who split the head coach and GM role this year are both going to the playoffs here in 2025 and both clinch spots in the 2026 championship series.
Oh, I like that point. Both teams that separated the role of GM and coach are now in the PLL playoffs, and they've made it into the PLL Champ Series next year. That's a good point there, Kay Bizzle. Neil, what moment caught you most off guard this year?
There were no shortage of surprises to pick from this season in the PLL. The Carolina Chaos being a championship series team. This exceptional rookie class. Even the Outlaws signing JB10 and closing out the season going 7-1 is up there. But in my mind, and maybe it's because I used to be an Archers fan, don't let all the chrome gear fool you. The Archers missing the playoff was the most shocking part of the season. If you had told me after the draft back in May that the back-to-back defending PLL champions, with all of that star power all over the field, in a league where no defending champion had even failed to make the championship game the next season, would miss out on the playoffs completely, I'd have thought you were insane. And while injuries certainly played their part, it was staggering to see just how inept they were at times, even when they had their big names in the lineup. The good news for them is that they have the number 1 pick and most of their championship roster still intact, so they should bounce back next season.
I agree with you there, Neil. That's super true. It was so surprising watching the back-to-back champions not even make the playoffs. I remember earlier this year, I was picking the Archers to win every single game, and I had to jump off that train pretty quickly because you saw that offense was struggling this year, and it didn't improve as the season went on here. But I do think the most surprising moment of this year was JB10 coming into the league and playing as well as he did. Of course, the first 2 weeks was a little challenging for him, but once he started hitting his stride, he looked like one of the best players on the PLL field. But now, let's talk about playoff time, baby. It's playoff time. The 6 teams have finally made it into the playoffs, but the Archers and the Cannons, their season is all over here, and I'm all about making predictions. So I want you guys to predict who's winning the 2025 PLL Championship.
Scotty, it is playoff time, and you want me to predict a champion right now? It's so tough to call right now, but I'll give not exactly my pick, but a dark horse following trends pick for everyone. The Carolina Chaos. The Carolina Chaos have been the Denver Outlaws' Achilles heel this season. 2 of Denver's losses were to Carolina this year. And if they're able to outperform the California Redwoods in the quarterfinals in Minneapolis, they'll have a date with Denver in Philadelphia as the Outlaws prepare for their first game action in nearly a month. That's a tall task for an Outlaws team that doesn't have much playoff experience together. Also, the one-time Carolina was crowned PLL champions. The title game was not played at Subaru Park in Philadelphia. This year's title game is being played at Sports Illustrated Stadium in North Jersey. Something to monitor as we shift into playoff mode here.
New Jersey, the greatest state in the union. My non-biased opinion. But yes, Kyle, I feel like everybody never counts out the Carolina Chaos. Every time the Carolina Chaos make the playoffs, people are like, hey, they can muck it up here. Neil, what are you thinking? Who's going to win the 2025 championship?
My brain says that the New York Atlas are the best team in the PLL right now. With an insane core of talent from Liam Intamin to Shelly and Teat, and of course, Trevor Baptiste, they should be the ones holding the trophy over their head come September 14th. But we've also thought this about Atlas in previous seasons, and they always find a way to lose a playoff game that they shouldn't. So they're going to have to prove me wrong on that before I believe in them in the playoffs. Meanwhile, I think the Denver Outlaws are just as good from top to bottom. The defense is vastly underrated. They, of course, have the Taforoton offense that has too many weapons to shut down effectively, and Logan McNaney will keep them in games during periods when they can't score. So I'm saying here and now, the Denver Outlaws are your 2025 PLL champions.
Neil, you had me thinking you were about to say the Atlas, but you go with the Denver Outlaws here. Kevin, do you agree with Neil on this one?
My championship prediction before the season was the New York Atlas, and heading into the playoffs, I'm sticking with them. I know historically they're snake bitten. I know they're a regular season team. I think this is the year they break through. Connor Schellenberger may be the regular season MVP, but Liam Intamin will be the championship game MVP. Mark my words. Book it.
Kevin picked the New York Atlas when the season begun, and now he's going to pick the New York Atlas as the season ends here. Now, I agree with the pick. It's a solid pick. The New York Atlas are the best team in the PLL, according to stats here, but will they be able to do it? We saw them last year lose at Hofstra University against the Maryland Whipsnakes in overtime, when the Atlas were the heavy favorite in that game. So let's see if the Atlas can reverse the curse here. But guys, that's all the time we have here on Stick Up. Thanks for joining us. Shout out to my boys Neil, Kevin, and Kyle for joining me. We'll catch you again, maybe next week, because we don't have a PLL game next week. We'll see what we do, but we'll catch you guys soon. Peace out.